Hello my wolf pack and welcome to a brand new video where today we're going through the draft analysis of the TBL Season 6, Twitch Battle League Season 6. Now, if you've been around for a long time, you know that I have a history with TBL. In fact, I was a member of the TBL Season 3, and I also did the original Summer League, which was just after Season 3. But I've not been there for Season 4 or Season 5, and looking at the teams, I am absolutely terrified. There is a lot of really good talent in the TBL. It is absolutely crazy. So many of these people are phenomenal battlers. I'm actually terrified, and they're really good drafters. All the teams that I've seen have been absolutely fantastic, honestly. And yeah, I'm really scared, if I'm honest. My team, it's okay. It's not the best I don't think I've ever drafted, but at the same time, I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm going to definitely have a lot of fun with it. And the first Pokemon I decided to draft, so in round 1, I decided to draft Dragonite. Now, Dragonite I've not actually used in draft format before. I've used it in competitive, but I've not used it in draft format. So I was really excited to use this. It's got really good ability in multi-scale. Is it multi-scale? I think it's multi-scale, not Marvel scale. It's one of the two, but I'm pretty sure it's multi. And basically, when it's full HP, it takes half damage. Now that is absolutely crazy because, one, it can allow me to get Dragon Dances up relatively easy. I can get access to Roost because this does allow for transfer moves, and I can do a lot of shenanigans. Typically with Dragonite, because you can run it physically or specially, which is really nice. A lot of the mons on my team I can run kind of either physical or special, and by saying a lot of mons, I think a few of the mons I can run. I can run them quite differently. But yeah, Dragonite I'm really excited about. I've wanted to get a Dragon type straight off the start, and I think Dragonite was my first pick. I was 7th, I think, in the draft, and Dragonite was just my first pick. Anyways, I really want a Dragonite, just because I hadn't used it before, and I was really excited about that. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say for Dragonite, but I'm really looking forward to use it. I think it's going to be a really fantastic Pokemon. I'm going to have lots of fun with it. Obviously, 4 times weak to Ice types, which is a little bit concerning, but at the same time, I should be able to pull off some strategies that sort that out and not have as much issue with that as I might initially think. So moving on to my second round pick. Now from my, so basically the idea here, we've got 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, 2 tier 3s, 1 tier 4, 1 tier 5, and then you've got 4 free picks which are worth points. So 40 in tier 5, 60 in tier 4, 100 in tier 3, 120 tier 2, 180 tier 1, and you have 400 points to spend. So those last 4 Pokemon are that. And this is my first tier 2. So tier 2 we have Rotom Wash. And Rotom Wash is actually a really cool Pokemon. I've used it before. I don't think I've used it in draft before, but I've used it so many times in different ways. I really love using it. It can be used as a Choice Specs user, even Choice Scarf user. You can use it for things like Thunderbolt. You've got access to Hyper Voice. You've got access to Nasty Plot. So the Hyper Voice Throat Spray combination can work really nicely. Volt Switch, you've got access to Defog to get rid of any hazards. Pain Split is also an option, so you can run it either defensively or offensively. So it's especially offensive, or you can run it defensive on either side. It's got pretty good defenses overall, and honestly, it is a phenomenal one. Electric and water typing, couldn't think what it was. Electric and water typing with the levitate ability, so that immediately, 1, gives us an immunity to ground type, which we are also weak to, so that works really nice, and means that the only Pokemon that can hit us super effectively are with grass types, so grass type moves, or freeze dry. Those are the only 2 instances where we are going to have super effective damage outside of the type changing moves. But yeah, I'm really excited to use this. It's one of my staples that I've used before. I find it to be a nice Pokemon to just do and use nicely. Honestly, it's not a hugely difficult Pokemon to use, and it's something that kind of fits into my style pretty nice. So that's kind of why I picked up Rotom Wash here, and I thought it would be quite nice just to have kind of that early water type pick, which is really good. Moving on to my third pick now, Mien Chao was on my initial list as well. In fact, I think I might have got sniped once in the whole stream, but Mien Chao was my third pick. This is always going to be my third pick. It is a really good Fighter type Pokemon, base 105 speed, so it's really fast. 125 in its base attack, which again is pretty big, and it's also got base 95 in its special attack, so I might try and run a special attack Mien Chao at some point during the next few weeks, maybe, we'll see. But yeah, Mien Chao, honestly, I've battled against this thing so many times, and I've seen this be like such a pain in the backside. And whenever I seem to battle it, I always seem to come off on the wrong side of it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. It's a Pokemon that I've never really used before. So I thought, screw it, let's give it a go. Let's see what we can do. And hopefully, it's going to be something that we can use really well, because we've got access to things like close combat. You've even got high jump kick as a possibility, regenerator as an ability, which is fantastic. I'm trying to think what other moves it has. It has knockoff, which I can use some shenanigans there, getting rid of items, because as you know, items can make Pokemon a lot more scary. But yeah, Mien Chao in total is, I think, a really solid pick. A really nice fighting type Pokemon to go in my team, a fast fighting type Pokemon. Normally I like to go for a fighting type Pokemon, and I normally go for slower types. I think the last one I went for was Conkeldurr, but Mien Chao was on my list. It was still there, so I picked it. Going on to my fourth pick. Now, this pick is one I admit I do kind of regret. I do kind of regret this one. I kind of panicked here. I wasn't really sure where exactly I was going. I hadn't really planned out the rest of my team at this point, so I went for Mesprit. It is misspelt in the slide there. I will admit that is my mistake entirely. I honestly thought it was called Mesprit, not Mesprit. And yeah, so that's a misspelling there. This thing is really cool. It's really cool because it gets access to things like Healing Wish, Stealth Rocks. It's actually got quite a versatile moveset. You can play it physically or specially with base 105 in both of its attacks. It's got base 105 in both of its defenses as well, so it can work as a very defensive mon also. Typically, it is a really good mon. It is a really good mon. Base 80 speed is the thing that lets it down. That's the thing that overall my team is kind of lacking, so... Mesprit is one that I am a bit like, should I have picked it? Should I have gone for like Azelf instead? Or should I have gone for like Alakazam, for example? I'm still kind of debating what I need to go for at this point. But honestly, I think Mesprit, for as long as I keep it, is probably going to be relatively useful. A really good Stealth Rock setter. So far, the first Stealth Rock setter I've got, and can just pull off a lot of different things. It can be physical, it can be special, and yeah, it can do quite a bit. Just in battle in general, and even things like screens if I wanted to set them up. I'm not really much of a screens user, but if it happens, it happens. So moving on to our next pick, I went for Aurorus, and this, I admit, was a really early round to go for Aurorus, around 5. I probably could have even left this to round 10 to pick this up. Honestly, yeah, this thing, it is actually a lot better than people believe it to be. Essentially, it's rock and ice type, so it is really weak to steel types, so I do have to be very careful when I bring it, because obviously if they've got a strong steel type Pokemon, so for example, like Heatran, for example, no one drafted Heatran, but just an example, then it's completely donezo. Like, it's completely done. But it does have a lot of really good niches that it does fill in. It's got Snow Warning, Aurora Veil combination, so we can... bring the hail, we can start racking up damage on Pokemon, we can break any sashes that Pokemon might be holding, we can put the Aurora Veil up so we can have our defenses raised. It's also got access to things like Meteor Beam. I could run Meteor Beam, Power Herb, I think it's Power Herb. Yeah, Power Herb, yeah. I can run Meteor Beam, Power Herb as an option to get a +1 in my special attack. It's got access to Hyper Voice and Throat Spray, so I can get a +1 in my special attack again, and it can also run Refrigerate instead of Snow Warning, and that Refrigerate allows for your normal type attacks to go to ice type attacks and get 1.2 times damage, which can be pretty good. Can be pretty good, especially on top of the Hyper Voice Throat Spray combination. I think that would work really nicely. It's got really good HP at base 123. The special defense is pretty good at 92. Defense is pretty low at 72, but with that big HP, it should be able to live a few hits anyways. It does let itself down a little bit with its attack stats, like physical attack is base 77, but we're not going to really use it for anything physical. Base 99 for special attack is relatively okay, but you definitely do need to get that at least a +1 to be able to get sweeping with it. So, but as I said, I've just listed off 2 easy ways of getting a +1 with it. You could even put choice specs on it or something. Definitely options that you can run. This thing can definitely be a threat, and I think a lot of people are underestimating the extent of a threat that Aurorus can actually be, especially when you look at its moveset. When I first looked at its moveset, I was really shocked at just the versatility of it, the amount of different things that you can get. I honestly think that this is a hugely underrated draft Pokemon. I haven't actually ever seen it drafted before, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to bring it for a few weeks and really show it off and really give it its dues. I know the 4 times weak to fighting and steel types is a bit of a problem, especially considering, at least in my opinion, when you're drafting, you need a steel type and you need a fighting type. So it does become a little bit of a problem, but we can get around that, for example, with berries, or just being very selective of when we come in. And even if you run this with like a Trick Room scenario as well, it can work really nicely as a Trick Room at base 58 in the speed. So just a couple of ideas there. With Auroras, I think that fit into the team quite nicely. As I said, picked it on a really early round. Could have definitely picked it much later than I did. Next, we've got Lowland Persian. Now, I wasn't quite sure when it came to Tier 4, because these were both Tier 4 picks. I wasn't quite sure with a Lowland Persian. Initially, I thought it got more than it did. I thought it was a really cool one because I thought it got more supportive moves than I originally saw on it, which is kind of annoying. And it is going to limit the amount that I can actually use for it, but it does get access to things like Parting Shot, which is really cool, allowing for you to obviously switch into something else and lower the attack and special attack of the opposing Pokemon, which with really fast speed as well can really work wonders for your team. It's got access to a variety of Dark type moves, Dark Pulse, even like Foul Play if you're not wanting to go for the investment. I believe it gets access to Hyper Voice. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it does. So you can get the +1 from the Throat Spray. Choice Specs is an option. I don't think it gets... It might get Nasty Plot. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. It possibly gets Nasty Plot, and if it does, obviously... Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I don't know. I'm 95% sure it does, but there's a little feeling that I'm not sure if it does. But I'm pretty sure it gets Nasty Plot, which is obviously going to work really nicely for it, allow for it to double its special attack. With base 75 special attack, it does need to be raised by at least 1 stat to be able to do anything. But as I said, you've got access to a lot of support moves, things like Parting Shot is one of them. Even Knockoff is a really good move to have access to as well, allowing you to get rid of items. And I think it does get access to Thunder Wave, possibly. I know it gets access to Thunderbolt. I don't... Well, no, it gets access to Shockwave. I don't think it gets access to Thunder Wave, actually. But yeah, I think I'm going to be able to pull this off in a couple of different rounds, especially with teams that have like quite a heavy focus on like Psychic and Ghost types, because there might be a couple. I can't actually remember off the top of my head. But I did very much consider bringing this in my first week, because I've already planned for my first week, but I have decided not to bring it on my first week, and that is kind of my first thought of Lowland Persian. I did originally put it in there, but I've decided not to. I think something else fits slightly better. But I think definitely I'll be bringing this for a couple of weeks because it's just a nice support Pokemon. Even if it's like I just use it for Parting Shot, it can definitely work really nicely on there. And even like things like Knockoff, Burning Jealousy is a really cool move as well. So gets access to things like that. Next up, I went for my Fairy type. Now, annoyingly, I think literally 2 free picks before this was the one that I originally wanted. I originally wanted Ribombee, and I thought that was going to make my team a lot faster. It was going to look a lot nicer, but unfortunately, that went 2 free picks before. I should have picked it before the Lowland Persian. I think at that point I wasn't quite sure what Fairy type I wanted to go for, and obviously it got swept out from underneath me. Which, yeah, you know, that happens. It happens. It's draft format. You'll be lucky if you get through it without being sniped at least once. But instead, I went for Alcremie. Alcremie, really high special attack, really high special defense, so it can work really nicely as a defensive mon. Calm Mind setup, for example. I think possibly it's Trick Room. I'm not 100% sure. But I know it gets a couple of nice attacks. It can hit some different Pokemon. I'm pretty sure it gets some nice supporting moves as well. So I think I'm going to be quite set with this. I'm actually quite happy. It ties my team together. It allows for kind of that support with Dragonite and Mien Chao, especially with that Fairy weakness. It allows it to come in and hopefully do some work. And yeah, as I said, it can be really strong on the special side and really strong on the especially defensive side. So this one, I haven't got much to say about it, but I think it's going to work my team quite nicely. Next up was Leafeon. Now Leafeon, I could have picked this on a later round, but I decided... Well, I couldn't decide what I was going for with round 9 and round 10, and I'll explain that in just a second. But I went for Leafeon in round 8, and Leafeon is really surprisingly a good Pokemon. It gets access to things like agility, so it can double its speed. Base 95 speed doubled is obviously going to be fantastic. It gets access to Swords Dance, so we can double our attack stat, which was already 100, base 110, so really strong. Base 130 defense, meaning it can live a few on the physical hit fronts. We've got a low special attack, but we're not really going to be using special attacks, and low special defense, so you do have to be careful on what you decide to set up on this thing on. But yeah, really strong. And obviously access to Swords Dance, you've got things like Knockoff, you've got X-Scissor, you've got Leaf Blade, that are all really good choices that you can hit a variety of different Pokemon on. It is a little bit limited in the amount of different moves that it does have access to, but as I said, things like Leaf Blade, if you've got Swords Dance Leaf Blade, not many things are going to want to take that. And also things like Knockoff. Knockoff hits the majority of Pokemon for neutral damage. I think it's just fighting and fairy types that take neutral, and at that point I can just use the Leaf Blade. So yeah, that is kind of my thoughts with Leafeon. I think it's going to come in handy in some weeks, definitely. It can Baton Pass also, so I think you can just Speed Pass. I'm not sure what the exact ruling is, but I know you can Baton Pass some stats, and I need to double check that ruling before I use Leafeon. But yeah, Leafeon is definitely something that's going to come for a few weeks. I think it's definitely going to be really handy in this team. I think it's a very underrated Pokemon. I think it was my tier 5 pick, or my first tier 5 pick, and it's just really cool. I really like it, and I think it's going to work wonders, potentially, and destroy a few Pokemon. Moving on to the penultimate pick. Now, Rapidash is, again, in my opinion, a really underrated Pokemon. It's actually got a surprisingly versatile moveset, so it gets access to things like Flare Blitz and Morning Sun to allow you to heal that off. Things like Play Rough, High Horsepower, Mega Horn. I think it gets access to a lot of different moves, and these can be really handy for hitting a variety of different Pokemon. Also, just a pure Fire type. It can be hit by ground, rock, and water types, but it can hit a lot of different Pokemon. And also, it kind of deals with my fairy weakness a little bit as well. It gives me a resist on fairies, and Rapidash, whilst it has got relatively lower defenses, it still can live a couple of hits and can hit really hard on a lot of different Pokemon. So honestly, I think this thing is going to be used a lot more than I thought initially. Originally, at this point, because I knew I had enough points to get a tier 4 and a tier 1, and I couldn't decide whether I wanted Heatran or whether I wanted Rapidash, and because I need a Steel type. And a lot of them were drafted, and there was 2 Steel types left in tier 1 that I had my eye on, and it was a choice between Heatran and the one that I chose to pick, and I just couldn't decide what I wanted as kind of my 10th pick, and I kind of left it to this late because I knew no one else could have picked it, or there was one other person that could have picked, but if they picked one, I would have just gone to the other one, which I wasn't really worried about. And as it worked out, I kind of did need to go for the Rapidash here. I was eyeing up things like Magmortar as well as an option, but Rapidash, 1 for the speed, because I have got quite low speed tiers on my team, and 2 for the physical aspect, because I was running a lot of special Pokemon at that point, or a lot of Pokemon that mainly focus on special, so I wanted to kind of go on the physical side for the last couple of picks. So Rapidash, I think, definitely going to be a really huge Pokemon. It can really wreck through teams if you underestimate it. And finally, I went for Excadrill, and this is something that I think some people are a little bit confused as to why I went Excadrill and why I went for Aurorus instead of things like Gigalith. Now, I'm going to try and explain this the best I can. Whenever I used Excadrill, I've never actually used it in Sandstorm. I know that it works best in a Sand team. 100% it works best in the Sand team. At this point, as I said, I was unsure which Steel type worked best for my team, and I decided to go for the physical Mons because otherwise I would have gone for Heatran. Heatran was a special Pokemon. I would have then had to go for a low tier ground type, which would have been a physical Pokemon, which I had a look through and there weren't really any there. I think there might have been Golurk at this point, but I think that might have already been taken. But yeah, I needed physical Pokemon on my team essentially. So I went for Excadrill. Excadrill, really, really cool Pokemon. Really high attack stat, base 135. High HP stat, so it can actually live some hits, but defenses lay it down, honestly. Base 88 speed isn't bad, it's not amazing, but I can use things like Rapid Spin or even Choice Scarf on it. I've used Choice Scarf Excadrill a lot in the past, so actually it could be something that I decide to use. quite frequently because that's one of the ones that I know to use. And yeah, it gets access to Iron Head and Earthquake, two really strong attacks that just hit really hard on lots of different Pokemon. It even has access to things like Stealth Rocks, and obviously Stealth Rocks, setting up the hazards. This is my second Stealth Rock setter, actually third Stealth Rock setter. So being able to set that could work really nicely for my team, and it just covers kind of a few weaknesses, again with the Fairy types, and it gives me an Electric immunity as well, and can also just hit a lot of different Pokemon. So I thought Excadrill, I had the points of the round 10. I could have picked it up on round 9, but I thought, no one else can pick this up at this point. So I'm going to do it on round 10. It's crazy going for the last round, going for my second tier 1 Pokemon. Honestly, this thing I am super excited about. I'm super excited about using, because I've only used it casually before. So overall, my team, I think it looks okay. I think there are a couple of holes. There are a couple of holes, definitely. I don't have a Ghost-type Pokemon, so I can't stop things like Rapid Spins. But I do have a Rapid Spinner, I have a Defogger, I have a couple of Defoggers actually. I have several Stealth Rock setters. I have a couple of supportive Pokemon that I can use things like Thunder Wave or like Parting Shot with. I think Alcremie gets things like Aromatherapy as well, so that will allow for support. I've even got a Snow Warning Aurora Veil setter. I've got the worst of the two, Lowland Ninetales. Funnily enough, I'm going against in week 1, but Lowland Ninetales was picked, I think, the end of round 2, which I'm surprised it even made it that far, because it is a fantastic Pokemon in all honesty. 4 times weak to Steel type, but at the same time, it can set up the Aurora Veil turn 1, and it's really fast, so that can work really nicely for teams. But overall, I've got a lot of knockoff users as well. I've got Persian, I've got Mesprit, I've got Mien Chao, and I think possibly even Excadrill. I'm not 100% sure that it learns. I know Leafeon does as well. Excadrill, I don't think it does actually. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, there's a couple of holes, as I said, and with my speed tier as well. My maximum speed is 115, and that's a Lowland Persian. So it does require me to use things like Rapid Spin or Dragon Dance or Choice Scarfs at points, or even possibly go for a Trick Room scenario in maybe a couple of weeks, which I do quite like the idea of running a Trick Room team. I used to hate it, but now I quite like it. But yeah, I'm really excited. I am super excited to come back to the TBL Season 6. It is crazy, the talent that's in here. Obviously, last time I made it to the playoffs, and I got taken out in the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure, thinking back, and I might not be thinking back 100% correctly, but I'm pretty sure I got knocked out by RNG. I'm pretty sure that Water Shuriken was used, and obviously Water Shuriken can hit between 3 and 5 times, or 2 and 5 times, and I'm pretty sure it was 2-4 hits that hit me, and it took out my Pokemon when I could have definitely taken them out had they have not got that, and I would have swept the team. So I think, if I remember right, I got taken out by RNG, but I am back. I am going to try my absolute best. I'm going to hopefully get in playoffs, and going to go through this. The first week I am versing Slick Panther and the Tip Town Timbers, I think they're called. And honest to God, I'm terrified. I've heard about Slick, and I'll talk about that in the team builder video that you will see on next Saturday. But that is going to be all for today. What do you think? What do you think of this team? What holes can you see in this team? Or what do you think? What's your favourite part of this team? I suppose I've gone through and explained all of this. I think I'm really liking my core at the minute, the Excadrill, Dragonite, and Alcremie. And then having like Mien Chao and Rotom Wash support there definitely are going to be really nice as well. But I really like the look of my team at the minute. I think it's definitely got a lot of potential. Might have to do some playing with it at some point, but yeah, I'm really excited, and hopefully this will all go well. But that is going to be all for today, so I hope you enjoy this. Please do like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Anyways, I'm out of here, so have a good one, and I'll see you soon.